My name is Elaine Caldwell, I am 54 years old, and for the last several years I have lived alone in a quiet beachfront house on Longboat Key, Florida. It is the kind of place people imagine when they think of peace, wide windows, salt in the air, the steady rhythm of waves that makes even hard days feel survivable. That Friday night started like so many others. I had finished a simple dinner, cleaned my plate, and poured myself a glass of water. No plans, no noise, just the sound of the Gulf rolling in outside. Then the doorbell rang. I remember standing there for a second, confused, because no one ever came by unannounced. When I opened the door, my entire family was standing there like they had rehearsed it. My parents, my younger sister Lydia, her husband Evan, and 3 massive suitcases already rolling past me before I could even form a sentence. They did not ask if they could come in. They did not ask how long they could stay. They walked straight into my foyer, set the bags down, and sat at my dining table like they had always lived there. I felt something tighten in my chest, but years of habit kicked in. I smiled. I welcomed them. I asked if they were hungry. Halfway through the meal, Lydia looked up at me with the same casual confidence she had carried since childhood and said, "Tomorrow morning I want breakfast on the table at exactly 5. Evan wakes up early and he likes things done a certain way." "You own the house, Elaine, so that's your job, right?" My parents smiled. Both of them nodded, as if this was the most reasonable request in the world. I felt my jaw tense, but I did not argue. I did not push back. I just smiled again and said, "Sure, no problem." I excused myself, walked into the kitchen, and stared at the clock on the wall as the seconds ticked by. 5 a.m. Fine. I set my alarm for 4, picked up my phone, and ordered the strongest extra-strength morning cleanse tea I could find, same-day delivery. They wanted breakfast at 5. I was going to give them a morning they would never forget. They did not even pretend to be guests. Lydia dropped her designer weekender in the foyer, kicked off her sandals, and announced that she and Evan were taking the master bedroom on the east side because the sunrise was better for his routine. My parents followed with their rolling suitcases like it had all been decided months ago. My father gave me a quick side hug and said they would take the blue guest suite, the same one they stayed in last Christmas. Last Christmas. They had stayed 3 days, emptied my fridge, and my mother complained non-stop that the bed was too firm. I swallowed the memory and kept smiling. By the time we sat down to eat, the power dynamic was already clear. Evan took the head of the table, the seat my father used to sit in. He poured himself a heavy glass of the wine I had been saving and started talking about property values like he owned the coastline. He gestured toward the windows and talked about how rare it was to see a house like this, fully paid off, no mortgage, clean title. My mother beamed at him. Lydia leaned into his shoulder and said they had been thinking that I was alone in too much space. Why not carve off part of the land, sell it, and let Evan manage everything? The commission alone could take care of our parents for years. My father nodded eagerly and talked about how Social Security barely covered their expenses anymore. Inflation was killing them, he said. I set my fork down. They were talking about my land. My house. The one thing I had bought after my divorce so no one could ever take anything from me again. Evan called it strategic monetization. Lydia squeezed my hand and told me families should stick together. My mother reminded me that they always thought the house was too big for one person. What none of them mentioned was the money I had sent every month for 10 years so they would not lose their home. Or the wedding I paid for. Or the emergencies I quietly handled without ever bringing it up again. Evan leaned back, refilled his glass, and told me opportunities like this do not wait. He already had buyers circling. One phone call and it could all be in motion by Monday. Then my father said the sentence that landed harder than anything else. "It's not like you have kids to leave it to." That was when I stood up and started clearing plates no one had finished. I told them I would think about it. Everyone knew that meant no. Lydia rolled her eyes. Evan smiled like a man who already believed he had won. He said they were staying for the week, plenty of time to go over numbers. A week. They had decided that without asking too. Later, while they claimed rooms and talked about future holidays in my house, I slipped out to the beach. The tide was coming in, loud and indifferent. I stood there until my feet went numb, reminding myself why I bought this place in the first place. When I came back inside, the master bedroom lights were on. I could hear laughter through the walls. My parents were already asleep down the hall. I poured myself a glass of water, stared at my reflection in the dark window, and realized the truth that made my stomach drop. They were not visiting. They had come to take over. I went to bed knowing that whatever happened at 5 a.m. would change everything. The alarm went off at 4 a.m. sharp. My heart was racing, but I felt calm in a way I hadn't in years. I slipped into my robe and padded barefoot down the staircase to the kitchen. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge and the distant crash of waves against the shore. I pulled out every item I could find, setting the stage like I was preparing for a 5-star brunch service. Sourdough bread from the local bakery went into the toaster with garlic butter. Eggs went into a pan, timed for perfect soft-boiled yolks. I arranged strawberries, blueberries, and mango slices on a pristine white platter. Orange juice was squeezed fresh, and the Colombian coffee beans I loved were ground slowly. Finally, I opened the brown package that had arrived yesterday. Extra strength detox tea. The label warned not to exceed 1 bag per day. I dropped 6 into my largest teapot, poured boiling water over them, and let it steep until it turned nearly black. The smell was sharp, medicinal even, but I told myself it was just herbs. Nothing more. By 4:50, everything was ready. Linen napkins folded just like in a restaurant, silverware perfectly aligned, the teapot sitting innocently next to the coffee. I stepped back and surveyed the setup. At 5 a.m., I heard footsteps thundering down the stairs. Evan came first, hair damp from the shower, wearing gym shorts like he owned the morning. Lydia followed in silk pajamas, yawning dramatically. My parents shuffled in last, my mother clutching her robe and my father already complaining about the cold air. Evan glanced over the table and clapped once. "Now this is service," he said. "Look at this, babe. Your sister went all out." Lydia slid into the chair at the head of the table, poured herself a huge mug of the detox tea without asking a word. "Finally, someone understands hospitality," she said, taking a long sip. My parents reached for the teapot as well. "Good job, Elaine," they both said, smiling. I stood at the island, arms folded, watching them drink, listening to them praise the preparation I had done under the weight of their audacity. They were oblivious. Blake refilled cups, Lydia kept remarking how energized she already felt. My parents finished everything, asking for seconds on the eggs. Then, 40 minutes later, it began. Evan groaned first, low and sudden. He pressed a hand to his stomach, muttered something about indigestion, and bolted for the downstairs powder room. The door slammed so hard the frame shook. Lydia laughed at first. "Drama king," she teased. Then her own eyes widened. She clapped a hand over her mouth and raced upstairs, shouting my name like I had done this intentionally. My mother leaned on the table, whispering, "Ron, I don't feel right." My father tried to rise, swayed, then sat down hard. The sounds from both bathrooms were unmistakable, relentless. Lydia screamed, "What did you put in that tea?" I calmly dialed 911. "Yes, hi. I have 2 elderly people here experiencing severe stomach distress. Possible food reaction. We need paramedics immediately." The ambulance arrived in under 8 minutes. 2 paramedics rushed inside, took one look at my parents curled over in pain, and began 4 fluids and vitals checks. They were stabilized quickly. Evan and Lydia were not far behind in their SUV, faces pale, clutching stomachs, and groaning from dehydration and gastrointestinal distress. I watched from the front door as they peeled away, Lydia hanging halfway out the passenger window, looking green. Later, the ER doctor called me herself. "Your family members are stable," she said, "but extremely dehydrated. They all drank the same extra-strength herbal tea, correct? Yes, I answered. 6 bags in one pot is practically a laxative overdose. They'll be on 4 fluids most of the day, but they will survive. I thanked her, hung up, and stood alone in the suddenly silent house. The breakfast dishes remained on the table. The teapot was empty, innocent-looking. For the first time all weekend, I smiled for real. The front door slammed behind the last ambulance. Silence. No voices, no footsteps, no demands. Just the low hum of the AC and the distant waves. Curiosity and caution pulled me to the guest room that Lydia and Evan had claimed. His black leather weekender lay half-spilled on the bench at the foot of the bed. I knelt and began sifting through the contents. Beneath a stack of folded clothes, I found a thick manila folder secured with a rubber band. My pulse jumped when I saw my name on the tab, E. Caldwell, Longboat Key. Inside were hundreds of photographs of my house, some from the water, some from the street, some taken through the windows at night. The earliest was dated 18 months ago. They had been watching me long before Lydia ever mentioned bringing him down. Next came a notarized power of attorney granting Evan full authority to list and sell my property. My parents' signatures were at the bottom, shaky but unmistakable, dated 3 months ago. A Delaware LLC formation packet listed Evan as the sole manager. A printed spreadsheet detailed 27 prior properties, all elderly owners, all clearly targeted. My name was already entered in row 28. Tucked in the back pocket of the folder was a single business card with a handwritten number on the back, Melissa Coleman, Mobile, Alabama. I knew that name. She was Evan's ex, the woman who accused him of stealing her house years ago. I dialed her before I could think better of it. Hello, Melissa? This is Elaine Caldwell, Lydia's older sister. I think we need to talk about Evan. She answered immediately, bitter laugh and all. 20 minutes later, I had the full story: fraud, theft, manipulation, and a trail of victims. I knew enough to act. I photographed every page, uploaded everything to a secure cloud, and emailed copies to my estate attorney with a warning: urgent, possible fraud involving my parents. I also included Melissa's and another victim's contact info. Then I opened the hidden safe behind my office panel, slid the folder inside, and locked it. Everything was secure. Standing in the living room, the space where my family had lounged just hours ago, sipping tea and smiling, I realized the depth of betrayal. They had signed my house away without telling me. But I was ready. The doorbell rang again, the sun low and bleeding orange across the gulf. I opened it to see my older brother, Marcus, standing there, duffel slung over one shoulder, work boots dusty, eyes blazing. He didn't wait for an invitation. "What the hell, Elaine?" he barked. "Mom's on the phone crying about poison tea. Dad can barely speak. Lydia says you've lost it. Start explaining." I stepped aside, pointing to the kitchen island. "Sit. You're going to want to see this before you decide who's crazy." He dropped the bag, crossed his arms, and leaned against the counter like a soldier ready for battle. I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward him. The first folder loaded, photos of my house, every angle, night shots, even drone footage from across the dunes. Marcus frowned. "Who took these?" I clicked through the next folder. A notarized power of attorney. My parents' signatures, dated 3 months prior. The notary stamp from a UPS store in Columbus, Ohio. Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's Mom's handwriting." I didn't stop. Next, the emails and text screenshots. My parents coordinating with Evan. "Just sign here," one read. "Elaine will never know." Marcus's hands curled into fists. I opened an audio file from Mom's cloud backup, her own voice confirming plans to split the proceeds after the sale. She didn't realize she had recorded herself. I let Marcus listen, letting the silence hang after each clip. Next, Melissa's testimony. She recounted how Evan had charmed her, convinced her to refinance her paid-off home, then disappeared with the equity the day the check cleared. She had police reports, a quitclaim deed with her forged signature, everything. Then Margaret Ellison, 82, a victim in Alabama. She had been tricked into selling her childhood home for a fraction of its value. The assisted living community promised never existed. She was now surviving with one suitcase and a Medicaid facility. I photographed every page, uploaded everything to a secure drive, and handed copies to Marcus. We contacted our estate attorney. Every shred of evidence was secure. The safe was locked. The folder hidden. I led Marcus through the house, showing him every camera I had installed since the divorce. 12 in total: front door, back door, hallways, office, garage, dock. We set up silent alerts and direct feeds to the sheriff's dispatch. Marcus tested each motion sensor, walking in and out until he was satisfied. Minutes later, the sheriff's office confirmed the emergency search warrant had been approved. Evan Reed was officially a person of interest in multiple states. The detective instructed us not to engage if he returned. The night crept on. Marcus and I sat in the dark office, monitors glowing, watching the empty hallways. The house, my house, felt like it was finally under my control. For the first time in years, I wasn't alone. At 2:13 a.m., a red pulse blinked on the monitor. Someone was entering. A figure in black, baseball cap low, latex gloves. Evan. We froze. 4 deputies emerged silently, taking positions. On screen, Evan moved with precision, heading upstairs. He slipped a spare key into the master bedroom lock and opened it without hesitation, going straight to the hidden panel behind the bookshelf. He knelt, trying combinations on the safe. Marcus whispered, "He knows exactly where it is." The adjoining closet door swung open. Police hands, guns drawn, training red dots on his chest. Blake cursed under his breath. The overhead light flipped on, blinding him. Marcus stepped forward, arms folded, calm but firm. Evan's mouth opened and closed. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I just came for my things." One deputy spun him, patted him down, and cuffed him. Another read his rights. The backpack he carried was unzipped on the floor, a loaded gun, burner phones, cash, fake ID, a USB labeled master list. The detective held the USB. 27 victims and counting, Mr. Reed. Attempted breaking and entering, possession of an illegal firearm, wire fraud. You're done. Evan tried to charm them, citing marital ownership of the house. The lead deputy cut him off. "We have a signed search warrant, live feed, and motion alerts of you breaking in. You're done." They walked him past me. Eyes met mine for a second, cold, calculating, no remorse. And then he was gone, taken into custody. Red and blue lights painting the palms outside. Marcus closed the front door and leaned against it. He thought he could just waltz in and clean up his mess. Not tonight. The detective stayed to bag evidence, USB, cash, phones, and documents. Preliminary scans showed the 27 files plus financials routed through offshore accounts. He had planned to vanish to Cancun the next night, fake passport ready. Marcus shook his head. "How long were Mom and Dad in on this?" "Long enough to sign papers," I said quietly. The detective sealed everything, labeled it, and gave receipts. "You're safe to stay tonight. Units will circle until sunrise." Marcus and I sat in the dim kitchen, finally pouring coffee neither of us touched. Silence stretched long. He spoke first. "I keep thinking about Christmas 2 years ago. Evan carved the turkey, told that story about closing a $10 million deal. Mom looked at him like he hung the moon. I bought it. We all did." I stared into my mug. "I paid for that turkey." Marcus's hand covered mine. "Not anymore." We sat until the sky lightened, listening to gulls and occasional patrol cars. The house felt lighter, as if the salt air had blown out the poison. By dawn, Evan was in a holding cell. The Glock guaranteed federal time. The USB meant wire fraud across 3 states, elder exploitation, and attempted witness tampering. Bail was denied. Marcus stretched, cracked his neck, and grinned tiredly. You hungry? I make a mean omelette. I almost laughed. Let's order from the place on the circle. My treat. Outside, the sun rose over the Gulf, bright after the storm. By the time the locksmith arrived, the sun had fully risen over the Gulf, turning the water a soft, glimmering blue. I watched him work as Marcus and I sat at the kitchen island, coffee mugs in hand, neither of us needing to speak. Every lock, every code, every gate was being reset, changed, reinforced. The new keys clicked into place with precision. For the first time in years, I felt the house was mine in every sense. Mom shuffled in first, pale and clutching her purse like it could save her from reality. Dad followed, slow, eyes glued to the floor. Courtney came last, face blotchy from crying, rage, or both. They stopped in the doorway when they saw Marcus and me already seated at the island. Mom's voice trembled. Honey, we need to talk. Blake's in jail, it was a misunderstanding. You have to fix this. He's family. Dad nodded weakly, silent agreement in his posture. Courtney crossed her arms tight. You owe us that much, Elaine. You owe hospital bills, apologies, everything. Drop the charges. This is insane. I didn't move. Marcus stayed silent, letting me lead. I slid my laptop across the marble and hit play. Mom's own voice filled the room, calm and confident. Once the closing happens, we split everything 50-50. She lives alone. She won't even notice until it's done. Another clip, Blake texting Dad. Have Elaine sign pages 4 and 5. It's routine. She trusts you. Another, Mom, laughing on her own cloud backup. After we cash out, we finally retire to Arizona. Courtney gets her share too. Color drained from Mom's face. Dad gripped the back of a chair. Courtney's mouth opened and closed, as if she couldn't form words. The silence was heavy, full of the truth they hadn't wanted me to know. Mom finally found her voice, small, pleading. We were in trouble, sweetheart. The house in Ohio is underwater. Reverse mortgage, credit cards, medical bills. We borrowed against everything. Blake said he could turn it around. He promised us a piece of the sale would fix everything. Dad's whisper followed, barely audible. We never thought you'd find out until it was done, until we were safe. Courtney finally exploded. You're seriously doing this? Choosing strangers over your own blood? I looked at her. Really looked, for the first time in days. That tea saved my house, Courtney. And you still don't get it. Mom's crying intensified. You've always had everything, Elaine. The settlement, this home, no kids to support. We have nothing left. You can't turn your back on us now. I stood slowly. I wired you $4,000 every month for 10 years. That's $480,000. I paid for your wedding, your car, your IVF. None of that ever earned a thank you. I'm done. Dad tried next. Family forgives. Honey. We made a mistake. We're old. Courtney snarled. You think money makes you better than us? Marcus's voice cut through, low. And hard. No. She thinks betrayal has consequences. And she's right. Mom reached for my hand. I pulled back, staring at each of them in turn. You signed my house away. You planned to take everything I built after my divorce and leave me with nothing. You taught me what family really means. Courtney laughed bitterly. So that's it? You're throwing us out like trash? Yes, I said. Starting today, I no longer have parents. I no longer have a sister. You are strangers who used to share my last name. Mom collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Dad just stared, silent, mouth moving soundlessly. Courtney screamed about lawsuits, ruined lives, but the words blurred into noise. I picked up my phone and called the locksmith, already waiting outside. Start now. Every lock, every gate, every code. I want it done by noon. The locksmith stepped inside with his tool bag. Mom's crying turned to wails. Courtney lunged toward me. Marcus stepped between us effortlessly. Dad tried one last time. Elaine, please. I met his eyes and felt nothing. Goodbye, Ronald. They lingered another 10 minutes as the locksmith worked in the background. Metal ground, keys clicked, codes reset. Mom begged. Courtney cursed. Dad repeated my name like it could still reach me. When the last deadbolt clicked, Marcus opened the front door wide. Sunlight poured in. I spoke once more, calm and final. Your bags are in the foyer. The Uber is outside. It will take you to the Sarasota airport. One-way tickets to Columbus, on me. After that, you're on your own. Mom tried to hug me. I stepped back. Courtney spat on the floor as she passed. Dad paused on the threshold, shoulders shaking, but never looked back. Marcus closed the door, turned the new key, and set the alarm. The house was silent again. Really silent this time. I exhaled long and slow, and for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't afraid of what came next. 6 months later, the house had transformed. Every stick of furniture was replaced. Linen slip-covered sofas in pale sea foam, oak floors, white marble counters catching the sunlight. Heavy drapes gone. Gulf light poured in. Double rows of white iceberg roses lined the front walk, thick and fragrant. Locks and security were military grade. Monthly transfers to my parents stopped. The moment the bank cleared. Not a single thank you for the $480,000 I had sent over 10 years. I didn't expect one. Blake's sentencing made local news for 3 days, 18 years federal prison, 12 for elder financial exploitation, 4 for wire fraud, 2 for attempted witness tampering. He is 40 now, nearly 60 when he gets out. Courtney lost everything. Banks reclaimed loans signed in Blake's name. Her Mercedes repossessed. Condo foreclosed. She now lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, scanning items at Walmart, taking the bus because her license was suspended. Mom and Dad sold the small ranch house in Columbus for less than owed. They moved to a low-income senior apartment outside Dayton, 2 small rooms, thin walls, hot plate instead of stove. Social Security and food stamps kept the lights on. Mom's Christmas card never came this year. Marcus flies down every other month. We cook steaks, drink too much wine, never mention the people who used to sit at that table. I still take my coffee in the same Adirondack chair facing west. The sunsets are the same fiery orange, gulls will over the water, but the weight in my chest is gone. Some evenings I bring a legal pad and write letters I never send. One to Melissa Coleman, thanking her courage. One to Margaret Ellison, telling her restitution finally came through. One to the detective who worked Sundays to keep me safe. I think about the word family and how strange it is. It can mean those who raise you or those who try to bury you. Blood doesn't mandate forgiveness. Cutting them out wasn't cruelty, it was survival. The roses bloom again. I walk the path barefoot each morning, letting dew cool my feet. The house is quiet, mine in every way that matters. Friends choose to be here. My brother chooses to stay. My future is finally my own. If you're watching this and someone in your life keeps taking pieces of you while calling it love, hear me clearly, boundaries are not betrayal. Protecting your peace is not selfish. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is close the door, change the locks, and let the roses grow over the path they used to walk. Real family doesn't steal your home to fix their mistakes. Real family doesn't need to be taught that you are not their retirement plan. I kept the house. I lost the guilt. And for the first time in 54 years, I am exactly where I belong. Some mornings I wake early, pour coffee, and sit on the deck facing the Gulf. The water stretches endlessly, soft waves brushing the shore, gulls calling above. I breathe in the salty air, letting it fill every corner of my chest. There is no tension, no unspoken debts, no hidden agendas. Just the rhythm of the ocean and the quiet of a house that finally feels like home. Friends come and go, but the space feels mine. I host gatherings carefully now, surrounded by people who bring light instead of demands. Evenings are spent reading, writing, or planning small adventures. The house has a flow I had never felt before. Rooms are no longer battlegrounds, they are spaces of peace and creativity. Every drawer, every cupboard, every closet reflects choices made solely by me, for me. I keep thinking about the past, about the people who betrayed me. The anger, the disbelief, the betrayal, they're still there, but they sit alongside a sense of power I've never had before. I am no longer beholden to anyone's expectations, manipulations, or greed. I am the steward of my own life, and that clarity brings a kind of freedom that money could never buy. The garden thrives under my care. The roses bloom thick and white, overwhelming in their fragrance, a daily reminder of resilience. I walk barefoot along the paths, watch the sunlight scatter across petals, and marvel at the simple, unshakable fact: I built this life, protected it, and reclaimed it. Occasionally, I think about Blake Reed, about the trail of destruction he left in his wake. He sits behind bars now, decades away from the freedom he assumed he could manipulate from others. The civil suits against Courtney ensured she faced the consequences of her choices. My parents, once holders of power in my life through fear and debt, are now reduced to their own limitations, struggling quietly with the reality they helped create. Travis and I talk often. He reminds me that standing up for yourself doesn't make you cold or unfeeling. It makes you strong. That lesson, carved through fire, reinforced by betrayal and clever schemes, is one I carry with gratitude. He is my family in every sense that matters now, loyal, protective, and unwavering. I sometimes write letters to no one in particular, documenting the journey. Not for revenge or reconciliation, but as a record of learning, survival, and triumph. I send a few to those who helped me along the way, like Melissa Coleman and Margaret Ellison. Their courage inspired my own. Their stories remind me that even when others attempt to manipulate or steal, strength, vigilance, and integrity can prevail. Life continues, day by day, shaped by choices and the ability to protect what is yours. The house, once a battleground of greed and entitlement, has become a sanctuary. I am present in each corner, each room, each sunlit morning. The past no longer has a hold. I sometimes sit on the porch in the evenings, watching the orange glow of the sunset fade into twilight. The ocean's steady hum replaces the chaos that once haunted me. For the first time in decades, I feel anchored, secure, and in command of my own narrative. The roses bloom with every passing season, resilient and beautiful, much like the life I've rebuilt. I walk the paths they line, barefoot, grounded in my own power, in the peace I fought to secure. The house is mine. The family I choose surrounds me. The memories of betrayal have faded, replaced with clarity and strength. If anyone watching this feels trapped by manipulation, greed, or family expectations, know this: reclaiming your life is possible. It may require difficult choices, confrontation, or the courage to walk away. But once you do, the freedom and peace that follow are worth every challenge. I kept the house. I lost the guilt. I gained everything that truly matters. I am Elaine Caldwell, 54 years old, and for the first time in my life, I am exactly where I belong.